Kevin, it looks like the ruler has left NXT. I was not expecting this to be the finale of our first, well, is it the first NXT of the year? I don't know. I should have looked at the calendar before I started. Yes, the first NXT of the year. I knew the call-up for Obafemi was imminent. We saw a vignette for him last night on Raw, but I don't know. I didn't think this was going to be the way that it ended. I'm kind of pleasantly surprised. Did you see this coming?
I did not see this coming. Now, what I can say is, I also thought Oba had like been soft called up already, so I was actually expecting him to lose tonight as sort of a not only a go out on your back sort of deal, but also as sort of a rub to TNA to finally let a TNA guy hold an NXT belt and sort of that swap. And I think Leon would have been a fantastic short term, 6 to 8 week title holder to let hit because I think he's phenomenal as well. So that's actually what I thought was going to happen because I guess I had assumed he had already sort of been cold opened or soft opened to be called up. But if they were going to do it, this is the way that you do it, right? You don't have the Asuka goodbye speech. You don't have the Shayna Baszler I'm too good for you clown speech. Like, he's not a words person. He's an action person. And so to just leave it and be gone, that's the way that you're going to have him do it. That's believable to his character. So.
No, I think this is a great way for him to go out, to be honest with you. I didn't expect it this way. To be completely honest, what you laid out is more or less what I was thinking, especially once they showed Carlos Silva in the stands. Now, Carlos has been there for many matches and whatnot, and many moments in NXT. So it's not like it was unusual or anything. But I was already thinking that Leon maybe that'll happen. Maybe he might win and have that token run. Like you said, like 6 to 8 week run, something like that. That was kind of what I was thinking too, like a shortish transitional run. That isn't what happened. The WWE engine, if you will continue to steamroll over TNA talent. It's still whatever. It doesn't really matter because TNA is getting a ton of exposure. They're selling out more tickets, more arenas than they ever have, but getting more exposure than they ever have. So they're still winning in the long term. But I thought this is a really interesting way to kind of end Obafemi's rule, I guess, over
the
NXT.
ruler's moving on to a new kingdom,
Yes, I think that's a better way of
putting
it.
Can that be the byline for the episode tonight?
Ooh, yeah. I'm writing that down because I always struggle coming up with the thumbnail thing.
Yeah, I got you. I'm a marketer. It's what I do.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. What did you say? I got to write that.
The ruler's moving on to a new kingdom.
The ruler is moving on to a new kingdom. All right.
And while you type, please let me say hello to the best chat in the PWTorch family.
Absolutely.
Hi, Sean. I saw you said hello. Miss you too. And to everybody else, let's have a fabulous show tonight.
Absolutely. Chat is always amazing. Already pumping here, talking about a whole bunch of stuff. I've been looking through it, but wow, since I was kind of talking, there's been even more. So I'll look through it in a minute as the next time I throw to Kevin and pick out some comments and things. But let's talk about the match a little bit. I thought this was a really good match for Leon Slater. Now, granted, there was for the good majority of the match, Oba was, in control and dominating and whatnot. But right down to the wire, that crucifix pin right at the end where it came down and it was almost a 3 count. You could just see the amount of heart that kid has and can convey through this character. Oh God, the sky is the limit for him. He's very clearly going to be winding up in the WWE system sooner rather than later. They're featuring him. I don't want to say more than TNA because I think he's still on just about every TNA show, but still, He's featured so often on WWE. He's destined for the brand, I'm sure. Also, they recreating the Hulk Andre moment. I didn't think we'd wind up seeing Javon Evans, body slam, Obafemi tonight, but he did. Struggled a little bit, but you know what? He did it. I couldn't do it, so I'm not gonna rag on him a little bit for the knees buckling, but that could have also been for the camera. Um, some of those slaps from Obafemi, holy crap!
I now
I
need to
felt
see
them.
an Oba Gunther slap off. Like that's what I need to
Yes.
see now.
Hey, and if he winds up on Raw, I mean, the vignette was on Raw, so I'm curious to see if we wind up seeing an Oba vignette, or because actually I didn't see SmackDown last week, so I'm not sure if there was an Oba vignette on SmackDown, but I'm curious to see if we see one this week on SmackDown, if they wind up hyping him for both brands, or if he just winds up showing up on Raw in the near future, not
Well,
necessarily next
listen,
week, but
if that happens, then as Rich Fan and others have said, that would be big meaty men slapping meat for sure.
yes, yes, yes,
Yes,
yes,
yes.
100%. Definitely. I think that's going to be a match that we'll see. I don't want to say sooner rather than later. But I do think that's going to be a match they put together at some point. I mean, why not? Two, like you said, big meaty men slapping meaty man meat. I don't know if that's what you said, but that's what I said.
It sounded good from you. It's
It
fine.
sounded good. Sounded good. Um, so yeah, anything else to throw in about the match itself?
No, and I saw Sean and a couple others comment on some of the finishes, and also hello to our new folks, Pile Driver Pete, and who else just logged in here?
We got Pile Driver
Falcon
Pete.
Star, hello, and of course Deacon Derek, hello as well. Good to see everybody. Um, yeah,
Thank you, Ryan, for letting me
I
know that the vignettes have been on both shows.
I know that we have said this about a good handful of NXT folks over the years, but I don't know that I've seen Oba have a bad match, and that includes his introductory match as well. And I just think I actually would have loved to have seen this match on a takeover type show. I think Leon Slater has more than proven himself to be the class of TNA. I think he's super athletic. I think he is. He looked about as tall as Obafemi, so he certainly is not going to look um, small against folks on the main roster if he's as tall as Obafemi. Um, and so I think had they given that match, they could have given that match another couple minutes. I would have loved to have seen it on the pay per view because I think they could have given a bit more. But I like how this one went down. Certainly, there was a lot of doubt. Like I said, I was thinking they may have thrown Leon the bone and given him the belt as a way of Oba going out. But I also think the way he went out now gives NXT 2 or 3 weeks of talking points. I saw, now I can't
There's
remember. I apologize, whoever came up with it in the chat, but with the opportunity to potentially have a tournament, um, they're going to be able to talk about this for a good number of weeks. Um, and so, yeah,
and
so it's got buzz.
there's
Yeah,
there's
go ahead.
one major point that I forgot to bring up, and I don't think I actually have seen anybody in the chat bring up either, is and I don't and it was the last maybe 2 seconds before the screen went to black that I happened to notice it, but Tony D'Angelo was in the
Yeah,
crowd.
yeah.
Okay, cool. We didn't bring that up. So
Yeah, and
you know,
his like half denim, half leather jacket.
yeah. So he was definitely eyeing the title. I just wanted before we went on, I just wanted to throw out there. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Cool. Um, but yeah, no, there's a lot of different ways they could go with this. I mean, a lot of moving parts here, with NXT and uh, call ups to the main roster, and then also call ups from Evolve to NXT. We saw the Vanity Projects, Jackson Drake, Brad Baylor, and Ricky Smokes from Evolve get called up tonight. A couple times, and there was a couple just little sprinkles that they sprinkled in to let you know that they were on the NXT roster now, with a Vanity Project called Ava Boss, and then a little bit later in the night, Lola Vice she had a little segment with Vanity Project, and after they got ran off by Hank and Tank, she said something along the lines of she didn't want to humiliate them on their first night or something like that. And so
Yeah, something
first
like that. Yeah.
first night, so a lot of moving parts. We also have Lash legend Jordan Grace, Trick Williams, Javon Evans, and now presumably Obafemi moving up to the main roster. Somebody in the chat also brought up that there's obviously the possibility that Blake Monroe, it was Ryan in the chat, looks like Monroe might be moving up too. I haven't personally seen anything about that, so I don't know if that was like speculation or whatnot. But obviously tonight, I guess we're kind of all over the place right now. But one of the advertised matches for the night was Thea Hale versus Blake Monroe for the NXT North American title. Why don't we just dive in and start talking about that as our next thing? Thea Hale versus Blake Monroe. That was, like I said, advertised match from last week, and they'd advertise on social media and whatnot throughout the course of the week. Thea Hale goes to make her entrance to more or less kick off the show. There was a couple, there was a recap of everything leading up to tonight, to New Year's Evil. But Thea makes her entrance. She's barely out of the curtain and gets attacked by Blake Monroe. Thrown through the stairs, thrown through the barricade. And interestingly, they wound up cutting to the commentators rather than like staying on the action, unless maybe I looked away for a second and Blake Monroe got pulled away by people. So if that was the case, I just thought maybe I just happened to think maybe that's what happened in my brain. But so that match obviously didn't happen. Ricky Saints came out. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Thea Hale winds up going to medical. Medical clears her, but Ava's kind of like, hey, maybe you should take it easy tonight. Thea goes, no, I'm a fighting champion. I'm here to defend my title. I'm going to defend my title. She goes out to the ring a little bit later on in the night, limping, holding her stomach, clearly, selling the effects of that attack, and issues an open challenge. This, of course, causes the entire lower card women's locker room to exit the back of the exit the locker room through the curtain, and you've got like two referees like, no, stay back. And Nikita Lyons showed that she has a very large brain, because she could have easily just stepped around where she was standing. There was no ref in front of her, and then she just immediately goes and stands in front of the ref like, oh, right, yeah, no. Oh, man.
I'm glad you said that, because if you didn't, I was going to, because she very clearly was making a break and then like spun move back into the pile to be able to be contained. And I was like, they are giving you every opportunity to not be a dope, and you just keep shooting yourself in the foot.
Yep, exactly. Like I don't know, whatever. She's still getting a paycheck, and maybe she'll improve. I don't know. That's all I want to talk about.
All right, so listen,
before I had to throw that out there. Well, yeah.
Before you move on, a couple things quick. Firstly, speaking of Evolve talent coming up, I don't know. I think you have mentioned being a fan of his, but I am a big fan of the Sean Legacy guy, and I am very excited to see him come up to NXT. But also for those of you in the chat, and maybe Nate, that are in the social media sphere, he's been doing a series of videos that I see them on Facebook Reels, but I'm sure it's also posted to Instagram, and I'm sure he has TikTok, but I don't have either of those. But that techno EDM song, Turn the Lights Off, that they're using with the John Hamm like club meme, if you guys are familiar. But he's done a whole series of videos now related to wrestling, and timing his like video so that the meme, he can like phase right into the John Hamm face. If you guys are on social media, look for him and enjoy every minute of those videos, because they are very well done.
I haven't seen them, but I'll take a look for him. I'll definitely take a look for him.
I wouldn't steer you wrong, Nate.
I didn't think you would. You haven't yet at all. I don't think. Maybe? No. I don't think so.
Nope.
No, not at all. But But no, talking about actually, I forget what we were talking about a second ago because that's what my brain does at this time of night. But Sean Legacy is going to be facing is it Jackson Drake? Is that his name? Or I should know this.
The the
The
chat will
current
come to the
evolved.
rescue. Don't worry.
Yes, and I have it written down in my notes, but I don't know where I have it written down on my notes. I actually took a lot of notes tonight. But I think it's Jackson Drake, the current Evolve champion and the leader. Thank you. It is Jackson Drake, according to Ryan here. So I knew the chat would come to my damaged brain's aid. It's not really damaged. It's just I don't know. I
You
can't
are not
explain.
broken, Nate. You are perfect the way you are.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, but he'll be facing Jackson Drake I believe it's the next Evolve show for the championship. With Vanity Project getting called up, it looks like Sean Legacy might finally capture that championship. As Ryan pointed out, it feels like Legacy's been chasing that Evolve championship for years. Um, I don't know how long it's been, but it does kind of feel like that, doesn't it? Um, yeah, but Thea Hale and Blake Monroe. That's what we were talking about. So it looks like Blake Monroe may wind up getting called up too as part of all of these call ups. I haven't seen anything confirm that or not, but that's speculation at this point. Because I know that there was I know that I'd heard some I read some chatter about that at some point, potentially happening, but or somebody being like interested in calling her up a little while ago. I mean, um,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah. So to answer the open challenge, that's right. We wound up talking about Nikita Lyons, and then we went off on a tangent. Um, all of the women were coming out, and then it looked like Tatum Paxley may be the first to the ring. She winds up taking her chainsaw, running out through the curtain, through everybody, and Chainsaw Tatum gets to the ring first. Oh, no, she didn't, because Izzy Dame made it to the ring first. Second match of the night for Izzy Dame. We haven't talked about her first yet, but the first one was against Tatum, who beat her. But Izzy gets in the ring, and they put on Izzy and Thea. Put on a relatively shortish match. I think it was the shortest match of the night. I didn't do the report. I don't have the times in front of me. I meant to pull them up before, but I'll do that now. But I think this was the shortest match of the night. The um, and then we saw Izzy Dame win the North American Championship. I I don't know. I know it was. I think it was a bit of, obviously it was a fluke that she won the title. She being Thea Hale, off of Blake Monroe a little while back. It seems like it was a fluke. Maybe she was supposed to lose the title to Izzy Dame. Maybe there was supposed to be a little bit of a feud, and Izzy was supposed to get it, or maybe they completely, just completely redid the story since there was that botch that led to Thea winning the title. I was really hoping to see Thea get a little bit more of a run with that belt. I thought it was interesting that Ava, threw Blake Monroe out of the building and said that she's not getting near that title. Um, so anytime soon, which also kind of leads to the theory of myself, the chat, and potentially you as well, Kevin, about Blake getting called up. But yeah, Izzy Dame is our new North American champion. Anything on the Blake Monroe, Izzy, and Thea saga?
Yeah, so a couple notes that stuck out to me just, and then we can move forward because I think you covered all the nuts and bolts. Firstly, not a great show of logic from our good friend Blake Monroe, because why would you even chance the opportunity to fight for the belt with a post match attack? If you're going to do it with WWE logic, wait till you're both in the ring, hit her before the bet. You know what I mean? Like, to do that before anybody even gets to the ring was just, again, suspension of disbelief. Fine, but like, you talk about being in control of what could happen, and you just shoot it down your leg, that didn't make any sense to me. Second thing related to Thea, and I know it will sound, well, it is critical. It's feedback that I want her to grow from, but her her acting needs some work because that didn't come across as resilient fighting champion when she was in the medical room and when she was out in the ring. It looked like, and pardon my analogy, but a beat dog. Like there was no like resilience in her face. It was all this like just anguish, and it was like that's not selling the story that you want to tell. And then I think in the match, because Izzy appears to be a tall for a woman, and Thea is not at all tall, differences really stood out. So the couple of times that Thea kind of got the forward kind of roll up, because Izzy has very long legs and just a sort of a tall woman, it made Thea's holding of her look like that Izzy was doing all the work, right? That she was holding her legs up for it. And so, like, that's sort of a mismatch. And then the other thing I don't get, and this could be just a WWE way of doing things. So this is not so much a dog on Thea, because I've noticed other shorter women. Ryan, I get it, but it was not pain. It was like Ryan said that he thinks she was trying to sell pain. I didn't get pain from that at all. I got like just I'm trying to sell something, and it's not even vaudeville, and it's even whatever. If there's a level above that, that's what it was.
I didn't think we were going to be talking about the vaudevillains tonight.
Hey, throwback, New Year's Evil throwback. I don't understand why they don't let shorter women use the middle rope, because when she runs the ropes, she loses all of her actual human momentum when she tries to reach her arms up over the top rope to get that bounce off of it. Well, she's not getting any, like you can see she's not getting any bounce off of it. And that's not acting or selling it. That's just the physics of her being a smaller woman and the tension of those ropes being tighter. Why can't, like how Ray bounces off the middle? That's not I don't think it's an exclusively Ray Mysterio trademark thing. Let these shorter women use the middle rope so that at least they're getting some bounce off. So I thought that stood out as to me from a technical standpoint.
I think I've seen Roxanne Perez do that a handful, if not more often than not. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah, Ryan, and we also have Gene Albert in the chat just said Roxanne uses the middle rope. Yeah. So.
And then the last thing I'll say, and then you can take it from there, is just I saw Sean and a couple others talk about early in the chat that they're down on Izzy being a champion, largely of any kind at this point. And while I have a foot in that boat, I think that we largely said similar things about JC Jane when she first won the NXT title. And for good, bad, or otherwise, they continue to keep the title on her, so she must be doing something that they like. And so while I also don't know that Izzy is going to have a 25 or 30-minute pay-per-view blowout match as a champion, I think I will adopt the opinion that I will give her the same shake that I gave JC to see, here's her chance to show out, and let's see if she does it or not. Because I don't know that she has a look and she has a faction, so I think those are things that work in her favor, but I think that she still has some improvement to do in the ring. And Ryan, I tend to agree with your comment about them running the ropes how they're taught. I guess I just wish the coaches would let body size do what's best for body size as opposed to sticking to the formula. So I think those are my 3 big points there. And so you're welcome to take it or move on, however you want. And also, for what it's worth, Nate, don't forget to introduce the show.
Hey, that's right. This is PWT. Because I started with a cold open, I forgot to introduce the show and set the table. This is PWT Talks NXT. here on the PWTorch Daily Cast. I'm Nate Lindberg, the host of the show. Or, well, maybe I am because Kevin's the one that's pointing the things out that I'm supposed to be doing. Kelly is out in LA tonight doing LA stuff. He told me why he was out there, and I completely forget why. Probably for work or something. I don't know, but he's out in LA. So Kevin Cattani, the professor, is hanging out with me tonight talking NXT. Kevin, thank you very much for filling in, man.
Hey, always my pleasure to be called out of the bullpen. I'm so happy to be here. Any chance I can spend time with you and the best chat in PWTorch is always a night well spent.
Absolutely. And hey, I appreciate it. Always a good time hanging out with you and talking wrestling and continuing our 1,207-day snap streak. Because that's a thing. That's a thing. I've not even with people like I don't know. I've so many. I've never had a snap streak that long before, ever. Um, you're actually the only reason I even use Snapchat, to be honest. I just take pictures of you.
Hey,
Yeah,
I'll,
yeah.
I'll give you
Yeah,
too
boom.
sweet to that.
There we go. All right. Anyway, enough of that. Jobin just hit me up on Discord to say, "Hey, Kevin." So Jobin says,
Oh,
"Hey."
hey, Jobin, what's up?
All right, let's move on here. We talked about Thea, the Blake Monroe stuff. Izzy versus Tatum. Yeah, all right, let's talk about Izzy versus Tatum. So this was, I think this was, well, actually, I thought this was probably going to be the culmination to the feud between Izzy and Tatum until all of the stuff happened with the North American title and Izzy kind of stealing that opportunity from Tatum. So I think that feud is going to continue. But in my notes, that's what I wrote, so that's what I said. Uh, but yeah, I think this was my favorite match of the night, to be completely honest with you. Well, actually, I think the main event was my favorite match of the night. This is my second favorite match of the night.
I was gonna say
But but
easy.
but yeah, by like a short margin. I did really enjoy this. Izzy has come a long way, as has Tatum Paxley. I think they've got great chemistry together. And the match, I mean, wasn't 100% clean or whatever, but I still think that they put together, a good match. I think it was like a 3-segment match too. I think there were 3 commercial breaks, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't actually found the times yet, so I forgot I was looking for them. But I was I was a little bit I was a little bit surprised that Tatum wound up winning this because I thought maybe that they were going to wind up continuing the feud, but then obviously everything happened that happened in the North American title picture there. So I guess that does make sense. Tatum getting the win was certainly a good feel good moment. One thing that I thought was absolutely hilarious throughout the course of this match, Vic and Booker are kind of starting to grow on me as a duo a little bit. There was a point in the match where um, Tatum goes and she does a chop block on Izzy's knee, and she was pretty high up, like on the thigh, like kind of right below Izzy's butt, and Booker calls up, "Look, Vic, did you see that? That was an illegal chop," and then like Vic's like, "Book, how long have you been in the business? You've forgotten more than I'll ever know, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And Vic's like, when have you ever seen a disqualification off of a chop block? Like,
Yeah, yeah. This is not the NFL here, Chief.
I love that Vic kind of calls Booker out. He does that more often, and it's a little bit more blatant. And that was I thought that was great. I thought it was a great call. I laughed. But yeah, let me throw to you on Izzy versus Tatum, and how all that led into the North American title segment a little bit later on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's certainly based on that match. I don't know that I could have predicted Izzy showing up and being the one to sneak her way into the ring for the North American title match. But I thought this match was. I agree that they work well together. like I said, I still think that Izzy is kind of one note in a lot of her um, actual in ring wrestling, and certainly Tatum is still improving on hers. But I thought that they worked really well together. I thought they filled their space really well together. Um, and so I think that makes for a good match. I love that. Like I said, I think we talked maybe the last time I was on with you that to me it feels like the current Tatum character is kind of what they wished Wendy Chu could have been. And I think
That
Wendy either just went
that
too
sounds familiar.
far down her own path or they told her to go down that path and it just didn't work. But like she seems to kind of be that, and I think she's playing it very well. And I think she's a fun character to watch on television. That her match, what was it, last week or the week before, where she kind of did the Matrix complete like death drop to like miss the kick only to pop back up. She certainly is athletic and able to do a lot of that. So yeah, I thought it was a good match. And like I said, I would not have guessed that either one of them would have been the two to run out um, to challenge for that North American title. But like I said, we'll see. We'll see what old Izzy does with it.
That we shall. That we shall. Um, all right. The next thing that I have on my list, we had a vignette for a somebody that I didn't know existed, and I was like, "Is that a French accent coming out of a luchador?" Um, his name is, I believe, was Elio Lafleur. Wrestled down, been wrestling as I don't know how to pronounce it. I can't speak French, but it's whatever French for White Eagle is. He was wrestling as that. Had a vignette for him tonight. I know absolutely nothing about this guy. I'm not sure if you do or if anybody in the chat does. I hadn't had a chance to look anything up about him before we started the show. Um, but from what we saw in the package, I'm intrigued. He looked pretty interesting, and I'm really interested to see what we get out of a French luchador. Anything on Elio Lafleur?
I have never heard of him, but certainly I'm excited to see what energy he brings. I think as someone who is desperately hoping that at some point before he hangs it up, they'll let Sammy go back to El Generico for a little bit.
What?
Um,
Wait a
I
minute.
love.
Hold on. What do you mean? Sami Zayn and LG? They're not the same person.
Yeah, you're right. They're two different people. In any event, I would love to see El Generico again. Um, but any chance to see sort of non-traditional luchadors, I think is interesting because certainly um, it is interesting to me how people sort of take a style and make it their own, and so I will be very interested to see how he makes sort of and how he makes this lucha style his own in an organization that has a handful of very memorable luchadors. Um, and so I think starting him on NXT, I think will be good. It certainly sounds like he's a face, so I'm sure they can get him mixed up with any number of heels for some introductory matches. Um, and yeah, let's do it. I'm ready for the White Eagle to grace us with his high flying French moves.
All right, all right. Um, yeah, no, I'm just kind of like reading through his Wikipedia page, and he's been doing it for a little while, so at least 12 years now. So
Oh wow,
yeah, a little bit because he looks relatively young. Actually, I already closed the
he
page. I
does
don't know
look
how old he
young.
is. Um, but
But then again,
y-
so do you and I, Nate. So I guess what is age, right?
yeah, right. Okay, 26. He's 26. Um, Still born in the 90s, 1999. Um, yeah, I was looking in the mirror the other day and like I don't know, the camera doesn't necessarily do it justice, but I feel like my beard is starting to be more gray than brown, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, um, we kind of touched on this a little bit. We saw Vanity Project a few times throughout the course of the night. In one segment, they, I think this was, I think I actually forgot to write one of them down. Um, but in one that I did write down, Vanity Project, they were hitting on Lola Vice backstage. Hank and Tank kind of they enter and shoo Vanity Project away. Um, Thea, it's not Thea, Lola starts talking about the match that had just happened where um, Izzy Dame had won the North American Championship, and she's like, I just beat her. I think she said I just kicked her ass, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of weeks ago. Um, she's like, I feel like I'm the number one contender for the North American title. And she also said, oh, and Hank and Tank mentioned that she also beat Kalani Jordan, and Lola starts talking about Kalani. Of course, Kalani happens to walk into the room behind the camera during, as they're talking about this. The camera like whips around to where Kalani Jordan's walking in, and she's taking off her high heels because I guess she was wearing high heels backstage for some reason in a dress.
Sure.
Um, why not in the middle of a show? Sure. I guess she was wrestling, so why be in your gear? But whatever. Takes off her heel. She whips it at her, and then kind of all hell breaks loose. And they cut the scene. Um, but again, looks like we have Vanity Project moving up. Um, anything on Vanity Project or that interaction with Kalani and
No. Time
yeah,
time filler. I don't. I'll wait till I see a little more of Vanity Project. I haven't seen a whole lot of them yet.
yep.
Um,
Oh, I did write down the
so
other thing. The other segment
the
was when they called Ava boss. That's right. I did write that down.
yeah, yeah,
All right. And we
yeah.
did
That
kind of
that
bring that
poor
up a little bit
break
ago.
room or whatever it is, just
It's
between the
almost.
parking lot and that break room.
I was
Don't
just
hang
gonna
out in
say.
social spaces in NXT.
I know. I was just gonna say that parking lot. Although the parking lot seems to have died down. We haven't seen many like attacks or anything in the parking lot lately. So
Nope, you
yeah,
just jinxed it. You just jinxed it.
yeah. Next week. It's probably gonna happen. Probably gonna happen. Um, all right. We also saw, because I think that was it for matches on the show. Actually, no, we didn't talk about JC Jane versus Kendall Gray, which wound up seeing JC Jane go over. But this is a really good match, for both of them. Again, JC and I say it every time, but I mean she's come such a long way from her debut, both in ring and on the mic. I thought both she and Kendall Gray had some amazing chemistry together. Uh, Joven just hit me up on Discords like it's only 65 in Orlando tonight. Everybody's hiding from the cold. That's why they're not out in the parking lot.
Only 65. Oh boy,
Yeah, I know, right? It's what is it
it's
here?
like 28 here in Iowa. Let me tell you.
It's about actually my phone says the same 28 here in New England, and it felt kind of balmy today. I'm not gonna lie.
It was humid. It was humid in Iowa. It did not feel like 28 today.
Yeah, yeah. Like I actually went out with just a sweatshirt today and for a little bit, but what the heck was I talking about before I got sidetracked about the weather? Um,
Kendall Gray and JC
Oh,
Jane
Kendall
having a
Gray
good
and
match.
JC Jane. Yeah, they, like I said, had some great chemistry together. I think they're really high on Kendall Gray. Obviously, Evolve champion. She's the Iron Survivor. I feel like she is probably going to be one of the few that gets called up from Evolve to take some of the spots that were left vacant from some of the call ups, as Ava pointed out to the roster of Evolve talent at the end of the show. Um, Again, JC got the win. I mean, I think that makes sense. JC well, it makes sense, but I also did see reports earlier today that there were kind of rumors of a JC Jane call up. I think, don't quote me on this because it was a little earlier in the day. I think it might have been Fightful that I saw the post on, but I honestly don't remember. Um, but reports that JC Jane might be wanted on the main roster sooner rather than later. So the thought kind of was in the back of my mind that maybe Kendall Gray would hold both titles at the same time, but I still gave it a pretty shallow chance of that actually happening. But again, I thought this was a really solid match. I'm really impressed with Kendall Gray. I said, like, as is the company. So let me throw it to you on the Evolve champion versus the NXT Women's champion for the title.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I can't help you on corroborating the story you think you saw earlier in the day, because my Twitter feed for the last week has just been Florida Gator transfer gets and losses, and so that's been occupying my eyes lately anyway, or my algorithm anyway. Um, um, but yeah, I think that the match was good. I think, like a lot of folks in the chat, I think I'm high on Kendall Gray too. I'm glad to see what kind of started off as another lady in NXT, kind of early in her debut, has really blossomed into something really cool. I too thought there were a couple of near falls where I thought that Kendall um, may have actually won that match too, kind of similar to Leon and Oba. Um, but I also think, um, especially with Oba getting called up, I reverted back to thinking that there wasn't a chance for Kendall to win because they're going to need some names to stabilize both divisions. And the women's division losing Lash is not such a big deal, but losing Jordan Grace, I think, is name value enough that to lose Jordan and the champ at once, I think would have been too much too quick. And so I would not be surprised. I think if you're JC, it's good to hear that your name is being discussed for a potential call up. But I also think, and I think it's not a if, it's a when. But I think they're going to need a little stability here with as much new faces as they're going to start showing up. Um, that they have her win, they keep their faction together, because I think if she gets called up, I don't know that they're going to bring the other two with her. And what happens to them if she
No,
does?
no, I
And
mean
I know we've said that
Laney.
about a few factions.
Yeah, I mean Laney Reed is nowhere near ready for that. Fallon Henley maybe, but Laney Reed, no, she's nowhere near ready for the main roster.
No, and see, here's the deal. I would very much put um, um, not Laney Reed, and I just had a total brain blank. Fallon Henley. I would put her in a similar sort of ability level to, and now I'm going to blank on her name too. The woman who is serving as Julia's valet slash manager slash consigliere. Like, they were kind of on the
Um,
same level before she left, and they're not doing a whole heck of a lot with her other than having her paired up with Julia. And so I don't know that she would be. There isn't really space for her on either roster yet in terms of impact making. And so if there is not a space for you, yep, Kiana, thank you, Pete. Um, if there isn't space for you, then stay put, keep working, keep doing good on TV until there is.
yep, yep. I couldn't think of her name either. I could picture her clear as day, and I'm like, it's been so long since I've
Yeah,
talked
the
about Kiana
briefcase with her
James.
initials, the whole thing, and
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, where I don't talk about like a lot of the people on the main roster very often. Yeah, the name was escaping me again. I could picture clear as day. But um, all right, so cool. So I think those are all the matches here. Let's go a little quick and see what we got. We had Ethan Page. Ethan Page went backstage looking for, or walked into Ava's office and said that, kind of said I think he said he wanted to talk to her, and she basically like was like, "What? You gonna blow up?" And blah blah blah. And he's like, "No, you're clearly in a bad mood. I'm gonna leave. No, no catches or anything like that. I'm gonna leave, go to the ring, and state my case there." Ava like scrunches her eyebrow, like, no catch, really? You're not going to cause a scene? You're not going to get mad? Nothing? You're just going to leave? And then, of course, he ushers the Vanity Project in, which we already did talk about that. But he winds up going out to the ring, and this was I don't know, it was a little bit of a mess of a segment. Because there were so many different angles that they were working, but Ethan comes out and he starts just touting himself as the greatest North American champion, greatest Canadian, how he has this international pull because he's defended the title all over the place. He's the AAA mixed tag team champion. He's Canadian. He's defended against multiple people from multiple companies, from I think he might have said multiple ethnicities. I don't remember, but you're basically trying to talk about how international, how global his championship reign and I guess his character is. And as he's doing that, he also bragged about being a big game hunter after bagging a moose last week, which I thought was a great line. Great line, Ethan Page. You are going to be one of the next top people in NXT. Hands down, I think he's going to wind up with the NXT title again around his waist before long. But that's another story. Um, after Ethan Page runs his mouth about being awesome, Jasper Troy comes out and kind of calls him out. He's like, "You're not the only champion around here." He kind of made it sound like he might want a shot at the North American title. But before we could really get that answer, Josh Briggs comes out. And once Josh Briggs came out, there were way too many chains in the ring because not only does Josh Briggs have the chains, we had Jasper Troy with the chains, and I'm just like, you can't have more than one person with the chain in the ring at a time. Doesn't work. Anyway, Briggs comes out and kind of calls out Jasper Troy for wanting to be a big man, saying he's like going to show how he's the big man, the monster of NXT, I think is actually what he said. He also stepped over the top rope, and it was impressive, but it was also a little funny because he's not as tall as he wants you to think he is. So it almost looked like a video game when he like pushes the rope down and steps over the rope just kind of sprung back up behind him. Whatever, weird visual, but it stuck out in my head. After Briggs comes out, we had Stacks with his fling Ariana Grace holding his international title. He basically called out Ethan Page saying, "Hey, you want to talk about being international? No, I'm the international champion, the TNA international champion." And then it was a little weird because I thought it was all heels in the ring, with maybe the exception of Jasper Troy, because I feel like we haven't really determined if he's a heel or a face yet. But it was mostly heels in the ring. Then we have Shiloh Hill come out. And Shiloh talked about, I think you mentioned toothless aggression. It was at this point I got distracted by my dog, so I did step away for a few minutes, and I forgot to go back, so I'm not sure what he actually said. But then Tavion Heights comes out, and so we had now 6 people in the ring. Tavion is going to be facing Jasper Troy next week for the Speed Championship. He calls him out for that, and says that he's going to beat Jasper next week. And then he goes ahead and attacks Jasper Troy. All hell breaks out from there. Shiloh Hill stood tall after grabbing Ariana Grace and like bending her over like he was going to give her this passionate kiss. And when he kind of like leaned down to do it, his tooth fell out of his mouth, or was probably pushed out of his mouth. But it fell out of his mouth. Hit Ariana. At first I thought it went in Ariana Grande. I always say that, Ariana Grace's mouth. But then in a slow-mo replay, it kind of grazed her lip, hit her chin.
Well, in a slow-mo replay, it looked like gum. And then they kind of played it again, and it was like, oh yeah, that's his prosthetic. That's
yeah, because like the tooth kind of almost looks like a retainer with a tooth on the front of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she was all grossed out. She gets out of the ring and goes to Stacks, who's, I think he was lying on the ground, and he kind of picks her up and she's freaking out. But it left Shiloh Hill kind of standing tall at the end of the segment. Like I said, I felt like this was, I, I guess, on a show that's like a PLE light, as we've called them. This was a named show, New Year's Evil. We don't get a whole lot of segments and talking, in-ring talking segments and stuff. We actually got more than I think we normally do tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Um,
it was heavy talking.
it
Yeah.
was it was kind of heavy tonight, but the rest, there was a lot of longer wrestling matches on the show. Um, but for in-ring talking segments, this was pretty much it. And uh, he or sorry, not he. It was just so many different segments, or sorry, so many different stories rather being talked about all at the same time. It felt like just a way of trying to get three different feuds on the show at the same time to try and maybe progress them a little bit and keep them relevant, and also promote Tavion and Jasper Troy's match next week, and all these little things. But it just felt really cluttered. I think that's the word I'm trying to look for, is cluttered.
It's
It
a good
felt
word.
very cluttered. Um, it wasn't bad by any stretch, but would the show have been better off without it? Yeah, probably. I don't think it would have turned it into a five-star show by any stretch of imagination, but not that I'm saying it was a bad show, but I don't know, it was just weird segment for me. I don't know. Let me throw it to you because it seems like you're nodding your head kind of in agreement.
Yeah. Well, firstly, as I was reading some of Derek's comments, I read too quickly and I saw it said. Well, now I see it says too many chains, but I went two chains. What? I didn't see two chains in the ring. I got very excited. I just read too fast, Derek. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, I don't know. That was how many people were in the ring? Probably something like, I don't know, six or seven. Okay, I
It
had to get that
was,
in there for my daughter. Sorry. No,
uh,
no, I just had to do the 6-7 thing.
uh,
Um, it
Kevin,
was.
Kevin, get out, get out.
I had to do it for my kids. That is very big for them right now, and they will crack one day when they hear that Daddy did a 6-7 joke. Um, but again, for the 6 to 8 guys that were in the ring, it they each of them had a pair, but like it was, if you just looked at the group as a whole, there was a very weird
Yeah,
group, and you had two LFG guys in Shiloh and Jasper Troy. You had Ethan as sort of the highest of the champions that were in the ring at the time. Um, I,
I feel like he was the
I think
veteran to lead, direct traffic.
yes, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It was literally a spot to get 3 to 4 storylines over at one time because they were running short on time. They're like, oh, geez, we got to get these in, go. And it was like, it was jumbled enough that, again, if you looked at that, the still frame of those guys in the ring, you're like, what the hell do these guys have in common? But
Yeah.
as you're listening, you're like, oh, like I get kind of how they're pairing off and all that. But I, again, I'm still excited to see Shiloh developed. Like I said, I watched both seasons of LFG, and I thought both him and Jasper were the standouts of those shows. Then, if you flip back to the Ava Evolve locker room segment, there were Anthony Luke, who is together with Maxine Dupree. He was in that shot. One of the guys from season 2 was in the all black with the beard in the front left of that shot. So a lot of LFG guys in that, and ladies in that shot too. So I like that they're getting some more screen time, and they're really sort of making a point of integrating that. Um, but there's Briggs again, so he's still on TV, so that must be a good sign for him. They're still trying to get what they can out of Tavion. Um, I think Jasper is going to have an opportunity to be a monster. I think he is going. He does have the tools to do that. I don't know if the speed title is the thing you want him having, and so
Yeah.
I would personally advocate for you getting that off of him as soon as you can, and like let him get into a real feud that sort of lets him showcase himself more.
It feels
But
like he's holding
if
the 24/7 title.
it honestly, and I say this with love because I love when companies try new things, and this speed thing certainly is a new thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that Todd Martin and Wade are the biggest fan. Well, I know that Todd's not a big a big fan of the concept. But like it almost is like that's the belt you get from Walmart. Like it's like the kitty belt that like is $25.99, and you're like, hey, look, and it even looks even weirder hanging from a chain on his neck. Um, so it's just a fine. But if it means more screen time for him, I'm for it. Um, Again, I know we've talked ad nauseum about how awesome Ethan Page has done with this opportunity, considering how little and how poorly used he was on AEW before he came over. I think you want to talk about a diamond. I think he has really shown himself to be someone who can be trusted, leaned on, used. Um, I'm excited, I don't know that they need to call him up just yet because they will. And like I said, speaking to that stability piece, they're going to need him to be an anchor for now. But boy, when they do call him up, I think he's gonna do very well for himself, and especially if they keep him and Chelsea together. Um, I don't know how long that lasts now that Chelsea's husband is officially signed to WWE, because I don't know if they're going to want to keep her and Matt Cardona
I think
together
they're
or
gonna.
separate.
I think they'd want to keep him. So I think
I would
Chelsea.
hope so, but if
Yeah,
not, why are you going to have her real life husband? You know what I mean? Like it's just I don't know that they want two guys sharing that spotlight with her in that way. So this is either going to be good for Ethan or maybe a splitting of the ways with Chelsea, which I hope not because I think they are fabulous together. Um, so yeah, so other than the main event, I think this was a good segment to let Ethan be Ethan, and we'll see kind of how it goes.
yeah, yeah. No, with Chelsea, I feel like because one of the things she said on I think it was her last podcast with CVV. He or she, she's a huge advocate for trying to get Ethan up to the main roster. Loves the team. They've got amazing chemistry together. So I think Ethan, obviously he's destined for the main roster, but like you mentioned, with all of these other people getting called up, they need people in NXT, kind of like when Bailey got left behind and the other three of the four horsewomen went up.
Yeah,
They need people to stay behind and kind of anchor NXT and kind of be those the stars of NXT while they develop the next stars of NXT. They would the Chelsea and Ethan tag team works so well. I think they'd be crazy to split them up.
yeah,
The the thing with Matt Cardona, somebody just pointed it out. Ryan in the chat, Matt Cardona's face while Chelsea's heel. I mean, that goes into it. Although we've had times when Seth Rollins was a heel and Becky Lynch was a babyface, and vice versa. And I know there've been other examples of that throughout the years. So I mean, that can certainly work. But I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see, how that Matt Cardona and Chelsea thing plays out, over time, if they even acknowledge it on TV. Because I mean, they don't have Matt Cardona in WWE lore, Matt and Chelsea. They don't necessarily have to be. They don't have to acknowledge that they're even
no, and who
married.
is Matt Cardona, right? Like if
Right.
they let him come in as his real self now, so it's like, okay, well,
Yeah. They could do like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing, but never really acknowledge it. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. Interesting to see how it all plays out. We had Joe Hendry going to Ava, looking to get his hands on Dion Lennox in a no DQ match. Ava wisely says that Dark State and I get it before I go on. Ava was on point tonight. She I've criticized her so many times for her acting and some of the decision making that the Ava character has made, but her acting and the character I think made some great decisions tonight. Some obviously some questionable ones too, but that's just WWE booking. But I really liked Ava tonight. I wanted to just throw that out there before I went any further. So Ava wisely says that if she gives um, Joe Hendry a no DQ match against Dark State, that it's just going to turn into a handicap match. And Joe Hendry's like, I didn't think of that. He didn't say that, but that was the look on his face. And he's like, well, what if I get a couple of badasses in my corner to even the odds? She's like, sure, if you can do that, you've got the match. Later on, we saw him walk up to OTM and wind up recruiting them. And I'm so happy to see that because Joe Hendry, he's also just been called up to the main roster. Well, at least that's what the reports were, but they didn't actually mention that tonight. So I don't know. But
I don't
as
know that
far
he's
as
been officially called up. I know he is signed officially with WWE, but I
I
think he
was
might actually be on NXT right now.
I was reading, I've read a few different reports that he was called up, but maybe it was speculation or something. Because Kelly and I were talking about that last week. Um, but but regardless, he wants Dark State. Sorry, he wants to get Dion Lennox in a match. So he recruited OTM, and I think this is great because Joe Hendry, he is a big name in NXT, big star, growing star, rising star, and now he's kind of given a little bit of a rub to OTM, who keep getting stop-start pushes. So I'm kind of hoping maybe this is another start, and that momentum continues to move on. Um, so uh, yeah, really happy about that. Anything on Hendry, OTM, Dark State, Dion Lennox?
Yeah, no, I think, um, again, they certainly need to find things for Joe to do. Um, I'm all for um, trying to give Dark State some more layers because I know we've been critical of the group and its composition and sort of its mission and all that. So I'm all for that. I did actually like the the logical reaction of OTM to Joe Hendry, where they were like, "Why would we want to get like that's not our business, man? Like you do you." And Hendry tried to talk some sense into them um, in terms of the well, if I win, then you win, and everybody eats and all that. So um, like I said, I know from the time that OTM was introduced, I know that you and I and Kelly, at the very least, were encouraged by their size, their athleticism, their background, but they're still very green. And so if this again helps get them more reps, and I'm sure because I know the Coconut Loop is still very active despite the main roster not doing as many house shows. I'm hopeful that they are getting regular work on that loop as well because I think they have the tools. And if pairing, making the odd couple pairing with Hendry is the thing that helps get them a little more mainstream, I'm for it because I think they could be a good injection into that tag division. Uh, and Pete, I see that you mentioned a mixed tag division while stopping short of advocating for it. I will stop in the middle of that and say that at the very least, I would love to see another mixed match challenge event. Um, just as a whatever, a 4, 6 week, 8 week tournament, because I do think there are some fun. Like there's some obvious connections like Alistair and Zelina and Montez and Bianca and that sort of thing. But I think you could create some fun teams in the way that Braun and Alexa were a team. Um, so I think they are due to do another one of those. I thought that was kind of fun. And then you still get some of that mixed match with, again, Chelsea and Ethan being a team. But you don't have to create a title. So we'll keep Derek happy that way. But you can still introduce some of um, those mixed match dynamics because I think again of all the federations that have ever existed and do exist, WWE is by far the one who has been most hesitant, is most hesitant, and has been most reluctant to allowing intergender wrestling regularly. And I'm not necessarily saying you jump in head first, but again, these are professionals who have been doing this long before they got to WWE, and so let's let them showcase some of that. So again,
Yeah.
all that to say, I would love to see another mixed match challenge. It doesn't have to be a long thing, but at least to get fans some of those pairings to see some of that. So
Yeah, the mixed match challenge was actually kind of fun, especially where it was like not really not in canon, and like Alexa and Braun were just, oh my God, they were hilarious together. They were great. But anyway, I think that's going to bring us to the end of our show tonight, everybody. I'm Nate Lindberg, host of the show. You can check the things I do out at natelindberg.com. Kelly, I believe, will be back with me next week to talk about, next week's episode of NXT. So, Kevin, thank you very much for joining. And who are you?
Hi, I'm Kevin Cattani, otherwise known as the Professor. Always grateful to be asked to be on, Nate. Thank you. And great to chat with the chat. Chat with the chat. Is that defining a term with a term? Um, and so, yes, Derek, why don't we start blowing up social media to try to get WWE to listen and bring back the Mixed Match Challenge? Um, and yeah, thank you again. Again, I'm all over the Twitter sphere still at KP Katani. Come find me. We can chat. Um, um, Thank you, Derek and Pete, for your kind words. Thank you, Ryan. Go ahead, Nate. You can hit it. I see you chomping at the bit. Go ahead.
I am, because I'm going to say Luther Reigns.
Hey.